Palmer from Know Your Rights Group and Success Coaching International with another important live video update. Going to be something, thankfully, a little bit different tonight. So obviously the big news of the week has been the passing of Prince Philip and the funeral that of course occurred over the weekend. Now, I'm not here to debate whether Prince Philip really was the rock of support for the Queen, as the media portrays him to be, or whether he was an evil, nasty pedophile, which a lot of people believe as well. I think all you need to do is just take one look into those eyes in any one of the thousands of photos doing the rounds, and you can figure that out for yourselves. But what this event has done, however, is that it has shone a very bright spotlight on the Queen. So I thought it was a pertinent time to discuss the Queen, discuss her role, and discuss by what mechanism anybody can have any kind of authority over you. So if we go back to the beginning, at least in relation to this Queen, Queen Elizabeth II, she took her coronation oath on the 2nd of June 1953. Now, again, I'm not here to debate whether she took that on the correct coronation stone or not. A lot of people argue about that. If you want to go down that path and look into it, absolutely by all means. But what I want to focus on here is the actual coronation oath that she took, and in particular this part. And this part of the oath says, "The Queen to govern the peoples of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Ireland, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, South Africa, Pakistan, and Ceylon." Now, the key words there are the Queen to govern those peoples. It is the Queen's job. She is ultimately at the top. It all ultimately flows back to her. It's her responsibility to govern the peoples of those countries. Now, obviously, she has delegates and she has officials in those countries to assist her, but ultimately it all stems back to her as part of her ultimate oath, which was to govern the peoples of those countries. Now, since every official or every delegate in each of those countries swears an oath of allegiance to the Queen herself, she then is that ultimate source of justice or fountain of all law in those countries. Now, that's a very important point. So if we have a closer look at the actual lawful oath that the officials in those countries, obviously we're going to be talking about right here in Australia, take, we see something interesting. Now, this, I'm not sure how well you can see it, this is taken straight off the Parliament of Australia website under the title of Swearing In. You can see the website up there, and essentially this is what it says. The oath or affirmation is as follows. I, A.B., and that's just John Smith, that's just the initials that they use, swear that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II, her heirs and successors according to law, so help me God. Okay, I'll be faithful and bear true allegiance to Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II, her heirs and successors according to law. So let's have a look at that in a little bit more detail. Okay, firstly, the person taking the oath must bear true allegiance to Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II. That means they cannot also have some other allegiance to some other entity. Okay, and certainly not to any foreign entity. Okay, now foreign entity is defined very clearly in the Imperial Acts Application Act. It's also outlined in the Bill of Rights 1688. And yes, I know a lot of people tell you, oh, we don't have a Bill of Rights here in Australia, Mike, it's irrelevant. That is absolutely incorrect. I urge you all, please go to our court cases page, have a look on the references CD that comes with our book. Look up the Port of Portland versus State of Victoria High Court case. All 7 justices said yes, most assuredly, the Imperial Acts Application Act and the Bill of Rights still operate with full force and effect of the law here in the Commonwealth of Australia right now. Now, that was only from 2010, so not very long ago. Okay, so again, be aware we absolutely do have a Bill of Rights that applies here in the Commonwealth of Australia, and that's the one it is. And that's where you need to look for that oath. And that's where you need to look for any reference to foreign foreign entity, foreign allegiance. Now, that foreign entity or foreign allegiance would include things such as this purported Queen of Australia, because obviously a Queen of Australia is foreign to the Queen of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Ireland, okay? But it would also include, for example, any lawyer, barrister, magistrate, judge, justice, anyone who's sworn an allegiance to the Bar Association. Okay, if you don't know what the Bar Association is, I urge you go and look it up. It's a foreign entity. So anyone who's sworn an allegiance to a foreign entity cannot have any power or authority over you. Okay, if you don't understand the huge ramifications of this, then I urge you, please, when you finish watching this, go back, watch it again as many times as you need to let this all sink in. Okay, now this of course is why we teach our advanced members in our advanced mastermind workshops to always ask the magistrate or judge for a copy of their oath of allegiance or their oath of office for and on the public record, okay, so that everyone knows who they've sworn an allegiance to. Again, if they've sworn an allegiance to a foreign power, then they do not have a true allegiance to the Queen of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Ireland, and therefore they do not represent her. And if they do not represent her, then they have no authority, okay, because they cannot be traced back to her. All right, so again, let's go back to that oath and have a look a little more clearly. It also specifies that it's Queen Elizabeth II and her heirs and successors according to law. Now, I know a lot of you who watch this are very proactive members. You're out there writing letters, challenging things, which is fantastic. So if you feel so inclined, I would urge you, write to the Attorney General and just ask this simple question. Who are the heirs and successors to the purported Queen of Australia? Okay, it obviously can't be Prince Charles or Prince William because they're the heirs and successors to Queen Elizabeth II. So if there are no heirs and successors to this fictitious Queen of Australia, then again, that is not a true queen, it's not a true crown, and therefore it has no true power or authority whatsoever. Okay, please make sure you understand this. Now, why is this all so important? Okay, it's important because every purported law, every purported act that's been introduced since 1973, when there was the creation of that fictitious Queen of Australia, claims, every law act claims that its head of power, where it derives its authority to be law, to be lawfully enacted, comes from this Queen of Australia. Now, if the Queen of Australia has no lawful authority, that means every single law that's been introduced since 1973 is invalid. Okay, this is huge, but it's actually even bigger than that, because it also means that any law that's been amended or repealed since 1973 hasn't been lawfully amended or repealed either. So again, it has no lawful force or effect. Okay, we actually have an FOI response from the Attorney General's office. Okay, and you can find this on our Freedom of Information CD if you don't already have it. Okay, and this is the question that was asked. We seek copies of the instruments available for the alteration or departure of the terms and scheme of the Commonwealth of Australia Constitution Act to provide to create an assent of laws other than Queen Elizabeth II under the authority and liability of the United Kingdom Parliament and Government. So i.e. what they were asking is there anything that allows the government, Parliament, whatever, to deviate from the Commonwealth Constitution and allow any entity other than Queen Elizabeth II under the authority and liability of the United Kingdom Parliament to assent to any laws? Okay, and the response from that FOI request was no such documents exist. Okay, no such documents exist. Now that is a hugely, hugely powerful FOI that anyone can print off and use it and put as an exhibit in an affidavit to any case where the law is questioned and the traceability of that law is in doubt. Okay, there can be no departure from the schemes provided for in the Commonwealth of Australia Constitution Act to allow any other entity, including but not limited to this fictitious Queen of Australia, to assent to any laws. Obviously, if a law hasn't been lawfully assented to, then it's not a valid law. So hopefully you can start to see how powerful this stuff is when you start to connect the dots a little bit. All right, so the Queen or the Crown is the source of all law in all of the countries that I mentioned just before. Now, obviously, right here in Australia, our Commonwealth Constitution is the highest law, and all other laws must come under the Constitution. Now, I know there's a wide range of people watching these videos, from brand new beginners right through to advanced members who've been with us for many, many years. So we don't want to lose the newbies, okay? So I'm just going to tie this in quickly and connect all these dots so it makes sense and everyone can follow on. So the Commonwealth Constitution is actually a part of the Commonwealth of Australia Constitution Act 1900 UK, okay, which is actually an act of the British Parliament, and of course that was assented to by the Queen of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Ireland at that time. Now, here's some important points to know about that act, okay? This is the Commonwealth of Australia Constitution Act, which includes the Commonwealth Constitution within that act. So, Clause 2 of the Act reconfirms what I just discussed before, and that is that the Act, okay, Commonwealth of Australia Constitution Act, extends to her heirs and successors. Okay, it does not say that the Queen can somehow be changed from the Queen of the United Kingdom to the Queen of Australia. Quite obviously, the Queen of Australia is not an heir or successor to the Queen of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Ireland. Okay, so these are important distinctions that people just try and brush aside, but when you look at the wording, it's very, very clear and concise. Okay, Clause 5 of the Act dictates that the Constitution and all laws that come under it, which is all laws, because it says so, shall be binding on the courts, judges, and people of every state and every part of the Commonwealth. Binding on the courts, judges, and people of every state. So next time you go into court and the magistrate or the judge tries to tell you, oh, the Constitution doesn't apply here, just simply ask them, Your Honour, can you please state for and on the public record where this court gets its exemption to covering Clause 5? Okay? Of course they can't answer that, but it's all about knowing how to ask these questions. Now, Clause 6, this is another key point, clearly defines the Commonwealth as being the Commonwealth of Australia as established under the Act. However, once again, we have an FOI response from the Attorney General's Office that confirms that the Commonwealth of Australia, as defined under the Commonwealth of Australia Constitution Act 1900 UK, okay, has not existed since 1973. Okay? Do you start to understand why this FOI CD is so powerful? Okay, there are so many really powerful FOI responses from the Attorney General's Office, from Treasury, from these departments that spell things out. They can't then turn around and deny them because they're the ones that have provided this information. Again, you can download those from the CD and you can put them as an exhibit to any affidavit you like where any of these issues are raised. Okay, so this is really, really powerful information. This is not for beginners, okay? This stuff's from our more advanced people, but I'm just tying everything in together so you get an idea of the bigger picture. All right, so here's some things to consider. If the Commonwealth of Australia hasn't existed since 1973, who are you paying tax to? What entity? Are you paying it into the Consolidated Revenue Fund as defined in Section 81? Or not? What legal or force or effect does something like the Biosecurity Act 2015 have on you? If all of the public health acts in each state all trace their authority back to the Biosecurity Act 2015, where does that leave all of those directives that are issued under those public health acts? Okay? Where does any federal circuit court, or God forbid the worst court in the land, the family court, get any jurisdiction over you if the Commonwealth of Australia hasn't existed, as defined under the Act, hasn't existed since 1973? Okay, the list of issues that stem from this is almost endless. So again, just to recap, if no one other than Queen Elizabeth II can lawfully assent to any new laws or amend or repeal any existing laws, and if that Queen, the Queen of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Ireland, has been unlawfully replaced with this purported fictitious Queen of Australia since 1973, and if the true Commonwealth of Australia hasn't existed since 1973, as defined under the Commonwealth of Australia Constitution Act, you really can start to get a glimpse of what an absolute legal mess we really are in this country. Okay, in fact, so much so that Sir Harry Gibbs, who was the Chief Justice of the High Court, actually wrote a 4-page explanatory statement. That's the statement there that he wrote. Again, you can find that on our court cases page. You can find a copy of that on the CD that comes with our ebook. Okay, and this is what he said here on page 3. I therefore have come to the conclusion that the current legal and political system in use in Australia and its states and territories has no basis in law. Okay, there it is right there. Has no basis in law. This is coming from the ex-Chief Justice of the High Court. Okay, so if he says something like that, people need to stand up and listen. His actual closing statement was this. My advice, okay, and this is his advice to judges, okay? My advice is to adjourn any case sine die, which means adjourn it indefinitely, okay? The challenges, adjourn any case that challenges the authority of the letters patent, okay? Under no circumstances hear a case that challenges the validity of a state or the federal constitution. It is the politicians who are using us as pawns without them having to face the music. These matters are of concern to politicians. Let them sort out these problems and accept any inherent risks themselves. Okay? So again, I urge you, please download that, get it off the CD that comes with the book, get it off the court cases page on our website, download it, and again, you can put that into any affidavit. Okay, any magistrate or judge needs to take note of the word of the ex-Chief Justice of the High Court. Okay, this, our legal system is a mess, and it's for the politicians to fix and sort out, not for you to be pawns in the game, and the judges and magistrates. Now, I know everyone's getting more than a little sick and tired of hearing all about COVID and COVID vaccines. So I'm going to try and start focusing on some of these larger issues that people really do need to be aware of as we go through some of the upcoming video updates like this over the coming weeks and months. I'm sure there'll still be COVID-related things popping up now and again, but this stuff is just because all the COVID stuff comes under this. Because as I said before, if everything is not traceable back to the Queen, if it's not traceable back to the Commonwealth Constitution, if the Commonwealth doesn't exist, if we've been operating under this colour of law, which I'll talk about another time since 1973, then any COVID-related stuff also falls by the wayside, but so does everything else. And this is what I want to start giving people is the bigger picture, so you can hone in on whatever's important to you, whether it's a fine or rates or COVID stuff or whatever is impacting you. Now, of course, I want to remind everyone, we do have, this is just a very, very brief introduction to a couple of clauses of the Constitution. So in our ebook, The Essential Step-by-Step Manual for Understanding and Exercising Your Rights, we do have an entire chapter on the Constitution where we go through all of those clauses, we go through all of the actual sections of the Constitution, or at least the most important ones, and explain the relevance of them, and how you can actually use them and relate them in day-to-day life. We do also have the full 1,008-page quick and annotated Constitution, okay, which goes into the history of the Constitution, why it was written in the way it was written, why they used the specific words that they used. Okay, if you want to pull apart the Constitution and really understand it, this is absolutely essential reading. Okay, it's amazing the stuff that we found, searching through there. And again, anyone who's serious about learning their rights, grab a copy of that CD. The stuff that you'll find as you go through it will truly blow your mind. So once again, I hope this has given you some real world information and strategies that can genuinely help you learn about and stand up for your rights. Again, as I keep saying, this is just the tip of the iceberg. And again, in upcoming videos, I want to expand on some of that. I want to cover some new topics. I want to explain to everyone why we've been all operating under this private law or colour of law since 1973. The importance of things like standing in the position as a subject of the crown. Now that I've outlined for you why the crown or the queen is the ultimate source and fountain of justice, okay, you want to stand in the position as a subject of the crown. So I'll expand on that in coming videos. We'll talk more about the straw man concept. But again, if you want to get a head start on this, please grab a copy of our Know Your Rights book, grab a copy of the CD that comes with it, and start reading, because there's chapters on all of that stuff in there. And as always, I'd urge you to make use of all the various resources. You know, these live video updates, the radio show podcasts, you know, book CDs, whatever you can, to get informed, get fired up, and get proactive. Because we get emails on an almost daily basis now, people who say, oh, I've read your book and oh my God, I'm so fired up, I'm so angry, I can't believe this has been going on, and I never knew about it, never had any idea. And whilst it's frustrating when you get to that point, it's really great, because that's what's going to cause you to take action, and that's how we're ultimately going to bring this system undone and, you know, restore our freedoms that are being constantly eroded at a rapid rate. So of course, please read through all the completely free information that's on all the websites, and you'll find the links in the description wherever that happens to be. Again, we do have all of those books that you can get, the Know Your Rights book, the Aussie Speeding Fines book, and the Bank Secrets Revealed book. You can go to their websites, get those books individually. You can get them all together at a bit of a discount with the combo packs. So have a look at those if they're of interest to you. And I will leave things there for tonight. Again, there'll be no live show on Tuesday night, but we will be going back to weekly radio shows as of the following Tuesday, so keep an ear out for those. And otherwise, I will be back with another live video update on Thursday evening. Catch you all then.